right, BCW Faithful and first-time viewers, welcome to The Curtain Call, a weekly pro wrestling show that gets you up to speed with everything going on in the world of recombination wrestling. And if you haven't done so already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe below and follow BCW on all social media platforms. And if you're asking yourself, who is this ruggedly handsome individual with these melodious tones piping right through your speakerphone? I am your host, the host that covers the most, Jimmy J. And now that I got myself got that out of the way, we can talk BCW. In Faithful, I've had an opportunity to sit down and talk to a multitude of individuals. Very real conversations I have had in the past, but nothing has been more real than this past week. In an interview that I had with a man that many could say is controversial, but whether you love him or you hate him, you have to give this man credit and you have to respect him. His name, Teddy Hart. And yes, this is not a conversation for the sensitive. This is 100% uncensored, uncanny, and unprecedented in hell. It was barely sanctioned, pretty much unsanctioned. The interview, our conversation, myself and Mr. Teddy Hart, we sat down via Skype and things got real. And folks, this is the exclusive interview that we had. So without further ado, I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to spoil it. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest this week on The Curtain Call, Teddy Hart. Teddy, welcome to BCW Curtain Call.
Thank you guys for having me. And right off the hop, I hope everybody in the wrestling world especially are with their families and enjoying the time at home and reflecting on how lucky we are to be alive right now. Could be a lot worse if we were in another country. Like I say, I think Canada, the United States specifically, obviously there's a lot of other places in the world, but we're really lucky to be here in North America and how things have been handled here. And I think everybody just needs to take some time and reflect and realize that shit could get a lot worse. This is just a taste of it, and hopefully this is as bad as we ever see it. But it stopped the whole world in some capacity, and this is the only thing we can do to really make money is talk to you guys through the phones, and I want it to be legit. And I say thank you again for having a guy like me on. Sometimes what I say is politically incorrect, maybe, but it's the truth, at least as far as I can see it. And I think I'm a pretty smart cat, and 25 years in the business, so I'm happy to answer almost any question you want to ask me. And I hope the guys that are out there that are listening understand. If you want to hear some sugar-coated bullshit and some guy that's trying to kiss a bunch of guys' asses for a job, that's not what you're going to hear. But you're going to hear something that's the truth, and it could be a compliment, or it could be something I think someone needs to improve on, including myself. I hope that sets you up kind of to where you understand where we're at right off the hop. And do my pre-workout right here. When I talk to you guys, I get amped up, and this is the best drink I've ever had for going to the gym. And Tyson Kids product, the workhorse stuff.
Where can people find that?
I have to get more information, and I will try to get that maybe. So when you put the podcast on, because I know this is not live, it's fans out there. Again, we're shooting obviously right off the hop. I'm not a huge sponsor guy or endorsement guy or Facebook or social media or Twitter, but I've been trying to get these things started now to get back on social media and realizing that's where everybody is. And I've been so blessed. That's how I found you, and that's how I got a hold of Anthony. My situation is that a lot of my property still is with the police. I don't have my phone, any of my information, any of my contacts, my passports, my ID, all my stuff is still locked up. So it was really hard to get back to talking to people, especially fans and bookers and people to let them know I was okay or the status or the situation. And social media is unbelievable, and I just overlooked it before, and it was a serious error on my team and on especially me not taking more, we'll say, of a positive, proactive type of approach with this thing, and it's just unbelievable how many fans I have out there and how many fans are talking to me now, and this is a dream come true for me, and it's really validated 20 years of my existence. 26 years I've been wrestling, but 20 years especially in the States, that people did know about Teddy Hart, and they did see and they appreciated, and they weren't being swerved by something they read second, third, or fourth hand information from somebody that never even met me.
You know, I want to get your take on a lot of things because I like hearing it from the horse's mouth. So I want to address right now the elephant in the room before we even get into this. You were recently incarcerated. Superman, I love it.
I think the elephant in the room. I said,
Oh, there. You were recently incarcerated on a couple of occasions. And you know, you could read things online, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. And I believe there's multiple sides to a story. So I want to hear your side of the story. What can you tell us about what happened and what is the current status of Teddy Hart?
I don't know exactly what I can say either. It's one of those things where the initial charge for me was possession of marijuana and steroids, which I have a prescription for steroids since I was 32 years old. Question for the court, I guess, or for the judge was my prescription in Canada being used in the States, which I have a prescription in Canada and the States. So they have to just go through the paperwork and see that I had a prescription for it. And that should be one of the things that's thrown out, hopefully. And again, I may have to ask you once I talk to my lawyer that I may not be able to have this part on the show. I don't even know, like certain things. Again, same thing with the weed. I have a medical marijuana prescription in Tampa, in Florida. I have one in Pennsylvania. I don't know if either are going to be allowed to be used or if it's admissible in court for something like in Virginia, because Virginia doesn't have medical marijuana at all. So that's another one of those situations where it's the lawyer and how they do, I guess, how they present it. And right now I have an ankle monitor on, and I'm on a house arrest situation where I can go to my chiropractor and I can go to a doctor's appointment. And one of the things I'm doing now is I am seeing a doctor just to check on my test levels, on my I guess everything I can do right now to check on my body. There's like a bunch of different tests that they're doing, blood sugar, like to see what I should be eating, a DNA testing. These are all things that people have come up with after I've been charged to say, listen, while you're sitting there stagnant, might as well start to take advantage of all of the medical technology out there. And I ended up getting on Medicaid. Now I have health insurance in the States I applied for. I'm getting a bank account in the States, which I never had before. My credit cards are now having to come to the States, so I'm having to do my tax stuff, which is cool for me. I'm getting to handle all these little things that I probably should have been more on top of. But again, this was coming from 3 years or 4 years before. 3 years ago, I was arrested and I was in Texas, and I had some problems there with an assault charge that ended up getting basically dropped or pushed to a probation period. And then I did all my stuff with the probation and got all that stuff finished, my community service hours, all that stuff was done. And I was able to move to Pennsylvania from Texas, and I had a really good 2-year run, mostly because of GCW and because of Court Bauer. Brett Lauderdale resurrected my career. He helped me with my Twitter. He went out of his way to talk to the courts. He wrote a letter for me. He gave people confidence that if he could trust me, they could trust me. He's also very smart behind the scenes of trying to get me bookings at a reasonable price. So he would negotiate stuff for me. He probably, I think Nick Gage would say the same thing. Joey Janela would probably say the same thing. Jimmy Lloyd would say the same thing. There's a lot of guys that without Brett Lauderdale's help and smarts, and Danny DeMonto too, but they had a separation, and I spoke to Brett more during those years than I did to Danny, but Danny also helped me out a lot too. The two of them as a team, obviously they're separated now, but the two of them as a team were the guys that got this bug in my head that I was still valued and I was still talked about by people on a high level for skill and for being able to do technical wrestling, and they wanted to see a lot more of a shoot style and to be innovative again and to start trying to invent more moves and to really be known as one of the 5-star kings out there, that if you see me in any match anywhere anytime with any guy really, that I can pull out a 4 or 5-star match with them. And no offense to Meltzer's critiquing, but if you haven't had a match and you shouldn't be critiquing anything to me along the wrestling level of as a wrestler to wrestler critique. Meltzer can be a fan critiquing wrestling all he wants to. No, that's his job. But for me, a wrestler critiquing another wrestler, I'm the fucking biggest critic in the world, and I've done more moves off of the scaffold, off of the top rope, off of the cage to the floor with no pads routinely to show people that if you do it right and you're blessed because of being a good person and having the true love and respect and appreciation of the fans, I think you can get away with some pretty wild stuff. Look at Neville, look at Ricochet, look at Kenny Omega, look at, say, we'll even go to like Will Ospreay. Doesn't seem to really even. I mean, he's like a machine in there. It's just watching these guys. They're unfucking believable. I hope I can swear if you beep it over. I mean, they're so crazy. AJ Styles is still moving like a cat. He's still unreal. Like
he's unbelievable, man. You and him in the ring would be awesome.
Oh, me and him have had some really good matches in the past, but he wasn't able to go 100% with me because it was an indie booking while he was working for Impact or for TNA, and he had the responsibility there as a champion, and you can only go so hard on indie shows if something happens there. And he still gave me great match after great match after great match. There's so many matches I want to have with guys that are out there that I've already had tidbit matches with, little things, over the years. I've wrestled almost every single guy in the world. Apart from a few, but I mean, I think you go back, every single one of those guys that I wrestled had a good match with me or a great match with me and would say that it was a positive experience with me and they'd like to have another match again with me. So that's what I say about the boys to boys critiquing stuff. I think Teddy Hart's always considered one of the guys you have a great match with. Private Party had their last match with me. El Generico had his last match with me. Sam Callisto had his last match with me. There's a lot of guys. Pentagon and Phoenix had a big match with me when they were, and especially Pentagon had a nice singles match with me in MLW, and then MLW did another move with the tag stuff with me and Pentagon, me and Harry versus Pentagon and Phoenix, and that was a big match at BCW building, and that was my birthday, and then we had a birthday party after that, and a lot of the guys came to my birthday party from that, and it was just like you get to see the respect. Like Tommy Dreamer came to my house. He was another guy that I wanted to add to that list of guys that backed me up and said, we'll give you work, we'll give you opportunity, we'll give you a canvas to paint on. We're going to see talk is cheap. Let's see if it's this real talk out of you, which is what we're hearing, what we're believing, not what somebody else said and not what we read or heard. This is what we go on. And then I gave them a good performance, which builds a little trust. And then you get an opportunity to go in the door again. And then you hit another home run. And then you hit another home run. And it's like people started to get behind me. And the fans built this reputation up for me. They call me the independent king of wrestling because independently, I think I have done the most wrestling and wrestled the most guys and maintained this viewpoint that independent wrestling to me is the hardest form of wrestling in the world because it's unpredictable audiences. It's weird rings. You don't know what kind of fucking shape the guy comes. You don't know what's going to happen before you get there because it's not like you got to the building 8 hours before the show and you got to sit and get ready for a TV and you got to stretch and work out and tan and got your you got your meal already there and stuff. Like a lot of the criteria on a good match, people don't know. I flew into that city with 3 hours before the show. It took an hour to get my bags. I got to from the airport to the building. There's less than 20 minutes before the show. I have to set up the match and go in the ring and have a great match with the guy. That guy's sick. He got hurt on Impact or whatever. He was doing Japan or something. But like the variables they're not the same. They're not really fair. So independently, the work I have to do to make sure every single match is set up is a lot of stuff before the show that people don't see. And that's the independent crown I say I carry very proudly. Of like, I did 90 matches last year. I think Joey Ryan maybe wrestled more than me, and Pentagon and Phoenix maybe had more independent bookings than me, but I don't think anybody else did. And the different wrestling the different wrestling promotions I work for, some you don't even have a locker room. Sometimes you don't have a shower after the show. Sometimes there's no bathroom at all. You got to go piss outside or something like that. Sometimes there's 400 people in the building that absolutely love wrestling, or sometimes you get a crowd that's there's 26 people in the building and they're there and they're happy, but it looks like they don't even really know what wrestling is or watch wrestling. They just happen to be told there was something in that town at that time, and it's like so. But the responsibility of me is I'm always being watched. And every match I do is usually being videotaped, so I'm held accountable to a certain level of criteria and a measuring stick that I say never mail it in. And that takes a lot of wear and tear on your body to make sure when you get in with these guys that you're going to give them a good match. Like Jimmy Lloyd and I had a match at ICW, and he said it means so much to see how you put so much thought into these matches and so much detail into making sure the other guy looks good and selling and taking all these other bumps. And I said, I take more bumps now at 38, 39, 40. I've been taking more bumps now than I ever did in my career before, because it just wasn't. People are doing more moves now. There's a lot more, and the guys are way better now than they were before. So the evolution of wrestling is that I better learn how to fucking do more shit too. I think Destroyer, I had to learn how to take a Canadian Destroyer. Usually I'm giving it. If you're going to give it, you better take it. So I've been taking it. I try to take it on the apron. I try to take it on the floor. I try to take it on a ladder because I've given it to guys. So I want it to be that if I've given it, I can take it. And guys get more respect when they see me doing a lot more selling now. And Jim Cornette said I do a lot more selling. He didn't realize I was such a good seller. Or a few other guys like Conan gave me some advice to try to sell more and build that story up more of the comeback when it means something. And the selling of it makes guys like you more, it makes guys appreciate you more, and it also, they want to sell more for you if you sell for them. So just getting smarter after all these years in wrestling, you better learn something along the way, and you better change your style, because my approach is before, keep it like a shoot, like rappers calling out another rapper and calling a motherfucker a pussy, I'm gonna fucking kill you and blah, 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 and whatever else. Obviously, that's a lot of bullshit talk, but I'm trying to sell tickets to a show where I want to fucking beat up this guy, or I'll challenge this guy to a shoot fight. Fucking rights, I'll challenge any motherfucker to a shoot fight if the money is right, but most of the time the money's never going to be there. You're not going to have the shoot fight, so it's a lot of hot air, and I'm trying to talk, and fucking make people want to believe in it or buy a ticket or they think it's a shoot. But at the end of the day, I gotta trust that fucking with my life. It's not like we're rapping and I'm not gonna see you ever until I see you on the street or in a bar and I pull a 9mm on you. I gotta put my head between your legs and take a pile driver after I just talk shit about you. So there's a certain level of talking shit which is cool. At the same time, you shoot on a guy too much, or you're a shooter like I am in that capacity, where my thing was to start finding two good things to say about everybody before I ever say another thing fucking bad about anybody on this planet. I got to find two good things to say before I can say one bad thing, and keep it still as a shoot. That if you fucking try to hurt me in the ring, you're going to have to deal with me in the locker room after, man to man, looking me eye to eye in a quiet place where no one can interrupt or fucking interfere. If you take care of me in the ring, then we built a fucking potential masterpiece that we could then use as a 20-year excuse to say, this is what I did for my friends that are watching, and I can show everybody on video, this is what I've done for 25 years. I've risked my life for your smiles and your claps and your appreciation and your money, and I want your money to be spent with the satisfaction of knowing you got a guarantee from Teddy fucking Hart that if you're in that building and you're watching me with whoever you put me in the ring with, it's going to be entertaining, and you're going to walk away going, I love the illusion, or I love the magic of wrestling. And man, those guys sure made me fucking, smile. Or those guys, they got me. I thought he got hurt, or it looked like he got killed. Is he okay after the show? They wanted. I mean, what's the point of what am I trying to do? Occupy your time. What's baseball? A pastime. What's the word pastime? Would you rather pass your time miserable, or would you rather pass your time fucking happy or excited?
Happy,
happy.
Listen, I got to tell you, Teddy, I've been to a lot of independent wrestling shows where you were featured on, and I got to thank you, man, because it was never a bad performance. And every time I seen your name on the card, I knew I was going to be entertained. I knew it was going to be a damn good match. I know indie wrestling has changed over the years. You've been in just a multitude of different organizations. And I listened to your first episode of your podcast, Open Heart Surgery, which can be found on all audio platforms, Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple. And you were talking about starting your own promotion. I'm just curious, what city would you run, and how would you stand out amongst pretty much the other sea of promotions?
My stuff was supposed to be C4 in Ottawa. Had sounded like they were pretty interested in doing an interpromotion thing with MLW, but MLW it's a tricky situation with Court. Court's very protective of the MLW brand and how he's built it up, and MSL and him have done a wonderful job with not a lot of help from too many people, and a very tough industry competing with while AEW was making their comeback, or not comeback, but their start, and Ring of Honor is kind of making a resurgence, and Impact had got bought out and got re-put on TV, and they seemed to have some money, and they were doing some big stuff too, and it seemed like wrestling overall at that stage was the best it's ever been, quality-wise and competition-wise. for MLW to recreate some stars or to create some stars out of thin air, like with me and Harry and Brian Pillman and Jacob Fatu, and we'll say MJF coming there first and then getting some more experience to go to AEW, so he had a platform to practice his stuff on. And then you could think about the Von Erichs have been like a pretty cool little surprise out of nowhere, and I think David Benoit might be getting his feet wet in the wrestling business, and that's another place where, like, if MLW picked him up and had him there for a little while, then sent him to AEW or to WWE, it might be a nice place for guys to cultivate their art and to get better at stuff. But point being, MLW wanted to do some stuff, but it never came to fruition, and maybe for the right reasons, that I had not developed a relationship with the guys in Ring of Honor yet. Now I have. The AEW guys, obviously, I'm very, very close to the Bucks. I'm very close to Jack. I'm very close to Neville. I would think Kenny Omega has a ton of respect for me. There's guys like Marco Stunt that had big matches with me. Luchasaurus did many seminars with me, one of my very first guys. Jungle Boy was discovered by me, as far as I know, that I was the one that told him that literally he was the best guy I'd ever seen in a dojo, and I showed him a lot of stuff. First workout, because his dad was a big fan, and he's very cool. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of his dad and what he had done. And his dad said, listen, like, we can tell the quality of a seminar when the guy in the ring is sitting on the sidelines just chewing gum and basically telling guys to do free squats, or if the guy's in the ring showing the guy how to do a backflip, because he can do a backflip right now, real time, real place. And that's a difference in coaching from the sidelines. And a lot of the guys, that's great. That's the way you make your money. But I'm still doing it at 40, and I'm doing all the moves that have ever been done in the world. And I've showed every guy how to do it properly for 25 years from a background of a martial artist, we'll say a magician, and someone that's also going, listen, this is as fake can get, because fake means I'm not going to hurt you, then it's fake. But I mean, fixed, I prefer the word fixed, not fake. But at the same time, my job is to not touch you at all if I don't have to. It's to be as light as possible without making it look like it. And if I can hit you and make it look real without touching you, that's the master level to me now. Like, guys used to say working snug was awesome. I'm working so snug now that I can hit you so fucking hard as I can. I'm not even touching you now, because I've become that accurate with my punches. I've been trying to do pinky punches where I punch you with the pinky. In case you see in slow motion, you'll still see the contact, but it's just like a flick. And if I can master that punch, I said anyone could hit a wall. Anyone could hit their hand. But if I can hit my hand without hitting my hand and make a noise, and I can get you to watch it in its hand, and it's you know, like we'll say, what's the word when you do the hand, sleight of hand?
Yeah,
if you get like magic, it's
like magic. Yeah, it makes it looks real, but it's real. You're not really making that contact.
Exactly. That's the magic part of the wrestling, where now I'm really trying to work to that, where I can be that light, where now I understand what some of the vets were saying before. Like, when you get that good, you're working that much, the less stress on the body and the less contact you actually have to make, the longer you can work. And these guys are working as a team because they're all on the same company. They're all, so the camaraderie of wrestling, I think, now has got to the point where guys aren't trying to stiff each other at all. They're really trying to they're trying to get to that elite level where every one of these guys is good. Like, I rarely see a bad match on TV, even if it's not even such a bad match, but I rarely see a bad wrestler on TV. It looks like almost every guy that's been hired in these companies now is doing great shit. So, and I don't mean to detour off the point which you asked me about the MLW and my promotion and then working. C4 was a place that was selling out 600, 700, 800 people. Best fucking independent crowd I've seen in Canada, maybe in North America. GCW has a strong fan base, but they lost the building they had when they were doing the big fucking parties in the back. I don't know if you remember the Game Changer building when they had the back. They did the.
It was in Jersey, right?
It was in Jersey, and it was called Game Changer. The building, I think, was called Game Changer, and it was like they do those. What are they called when you do the party with the parking lot before the show?
Oh, like oh man, I know what it is. The tailgate parties.
GCW threw the greatest tailgate parties I've ever seen, bar none, and people were coming to hang out with the boys, and it was a really cool atmosphere. They ended up losing that building, and I've never seen them run that same style again, but they still draw that 4, 5, 6, maybe between 3 to 5 kind of steady audience, but they had this other audience that they built up, which is about another 400 or 500 people that I'd seen. That, to me, if you can get that audience mixed up with something, Jersey All Pro, Old Ring of Honor, there's a group kind of like, we'll say there's probably say 2,000 diehard fans between Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York that would drive to Montreal or would drive to Canada. The reason I'm saying this is because I can't run a promotion in the States and act like I'm going to do shit. My whole thing is getting guys that are in AEW versus guys that are in Ring of Honor and making a win-loss where it doesn't matter, or having a system where the guys can put each other over without affecting their company. Or there's just no finishes in these matches for the first couple months. Literally, I don't have to have a finish, and people can understand I can mind fuck people as much as I want. Something could happen every time, or it's a switch, or it's an elimination, or it's a count out, or it's a fucking disqualification, and nobody really has to get pinned. If the story is so good and the wrestling is that good that people aren't really keeping track of because the companies are going, listen, we got to be careful with our champion versus your champion on these shows. Cool, then if I'm doing a multi-man match and all my promotion's supposed to be is 6-mans, 8-mans, and 10-mans, there's no single match. There's probably not going to be too many tags. It's going to be, I want a girl and 2 guys. I want 4 guys, 6 guys, and 8 guys on each team. And I want it to be basically the best guys from each team. Either we pick teams and it's inter-promotional teams. So it doesn't have to be AEW versus Impact. It could be Brian Cage and Kenny Omega versus fucking Pentagon and Phoenix versus Harry Smith and Teddy Hart versus Josh Barnett and fucking Frank Mir. And I got a couple guys from MMA. I got a couple, but I can mix and match because the Ring of Honor contract allows guys to work in Canada. AEW, the guys can work in Canada.
That makes sense.
Guys can work in Canada. So in Canada, it's the free land. It's the interpromotional fucking dream match because I can get now Rush and PCO with me as a 6-man versus fucking Kenny Omega and the Bucks. If we wanted to do that match, you got the money. If I have the money, I'm going to pay the money. And that's another thing is nobody wants to pay these guys that money, but you pay them the money once or twice. These guys are going to go, fuck, I paid $2,500 for this guy to come in, or I paid $5,000 for, I'd rather pay $5,000 for Kenny Omega or whatever the cost of these guys is, and I'm not trying to give guys rates out at all. I'm just stating, or then pay some other guy who's an ex-WWE guy fucking some ridiculous amount of money to sit there and sign autographs. Even like my Uncle Brett, I love Brett, but I'd rather bring in 3 guys or 4 guys that are big indie stars or big AEW stars or big Impact stars or Ring of Honor stars to work some kind of match that I'm going to get the match and the rematch out of that than a guy signing autographs and sitting there telling a story. You know, I'm not that guy. So,
and you know, there's a talent pool right now that I feel like it's overflowing with all the new releases from WWE. Who would you have your eyes on?
It's man, right now my big matches to get, and again, is me and Harry Smith and Jack Evans as a 6-man team with maybe I thought Nick Gage, so I wanted to do like a 6-man with me and Harry. And we were thinking again of a couple different guys, but Jack's always first on the list. But then and then that would be our 6-man, and then our 8-man was going to be, we had Nick Gage to that one, and then the 10-man was going to be, we added Maria to that one because Ring of Honor, again, she can't work in the States, but she can work in Canada. So I've never been able to work Maria yet. I was supposed to work Maria in Canada or work a tag with her, and then that's when I got put in jail. But I had my promotion in Canada that's Hart Legacy that's still there, and I have another one that Bret Hart's doing his own promotion in Canada with his son, and I was supposed to be brought in. This is the first time ever that Bret's been doing wrestling in Calgary.
Wow.
Ever. And that's a big deal for Bret because he has the sponsorship, he has the power, and he loves a lot of the teams that are, because AEW brought him in, right?
Yeah.
So I don't need to tell Bret on who AEW is or fill him in or let him know he's already watched. He's so you get a Jericho with Bret in Canada, and that's a building. He might draw 10,000 people. Without WWE there, Bret has that kind of power. He can draw 2,000, 3,000 on his own with nothing, just to sign pictures and say hi to him out of respect. The Calgary Hitmen are his team. We've got a WHL team there. They draw between, say, 6,000 to 10,000 people for shows, depending on the playoffs and stuff. So the Calgary Flames are connected to the Calgary Hitmen, are connected to the Calgary Stampeders. Bret runs Calgary. He just never bothered because he'd been so, I think, just stressed out and burnt out with wrestling and busy with his family and a new wife and just like his own kids and his own schedule, because he still signs a ton of pictures and autographs and travels all over the world and makes a lot of money doing it. But I think at this stage he was enticed, or he was, we'll say, approached with the idea and he liked it. And I think he realized with the TV deals and that Canada's wide open right now, that Brett could probably run a promotion that allows Ring of Honor to work with AEW, to work with New Japan, to work with MLW, to work with Impact. And that, to me, those are the matches that right now nobody's getting to see. They've seen them in the past, but they haven't seen him in the future. So the future to me is these guys are evolving very quickly, and they're getting a lot better because now they're on TV. So I'm not watching Jungle Boy from a year ago. I'm watching him in 6 months from now. How good's he going to be? How good's Joey Janela getting? I mean, I just watched a match with Cody Rhodes and Joey Janela for AEW. Yeah. Nobody in the building. That Cody Rhodes is getting really good. You can tell his footwork. You can watch him right now in the ring. Him and Goldust, those guys are practicing after the show, before the show, after the show. Those guys are taking wrestling like NFL style, where they're practicing every day. Because you can tell by their footwork and the way their spots are and how crisp they move. Cody Rhodes is a better wrestler now than he ever has been in his career, which is, you imagine he's older. He's been on the road for a long time. Yeah. A long time. He could be totally beat up and totally use that as an excuse. He's now better and smooth, and he's so smooth. He's taking head bumps. He took 2 or 3 crazy head bumps that I watched. He's doing a reverse suplex backflip bump for Joey Janela off the top rope. I can't
believe that, man.
They slip on that, and there's no one in the building, man. He slips on that. They're both falling to the floor. There's no spotter. Those are things I'm watching. Kenny Omega doing that backflip, that's a sweet. Not too many guys in the world know that fear or the risk, because I'm one of the guys that did it, and I watched him do it perfectly. And it's like, those are things. I didn't do the backflip to say I'm the only guy that ever did a fucking backflip. I'm saying I did it. I thought it was fucking cool, and I want to see other guys do it too, because at the end of the day, I'm a fan of wrestling, as you are. Yeah. I want to see cool shit. I don't care if I myself or if someone else did it. I just want to see cool shit. Either copy me. If you can't copy me, do something different. But I'm going to definitely give you props on if you risked your life for fucking basically to be held accountable when you're looking in the mirror that you did a lot of cool shit in wrestling that you didn't have to. What's the point? What drives you in wrestling to do anything?
I mean, dude, listen, I've seen you, like, again, multiple shows, and you're very talented, man. You do crazy stuff. And you've actually mentored guys like Jack Evans, Pete Wilson. And don't you run a wrestling school as well in Canada?
I run a wrestling school in Canada, and I'm trying to open up a new wrestling school in Florida, still working on that plan with Kenny Lester and his dad, who's a big-time judge down there and has a lot of connections with some of the guys from Bellator. And we want to do a shoot fight wrestling school, where it's an MMA wrestling school and boxing. Oh, shit. I'm going to be trying to have my first boxing match this year. I'm a retired boxer, used to be a Golden Gloves boxing champion in Canada.
Really? I never knew that.
12 fights. And I did pretty good, and I love, obviously, amateur fights, but I had a good record, and I was very successful boxing, but it fries your nose. And at that stage, my nose had been broken a few times. My nose has been broken about 6 or 7 times now, and I'm still lucky to have my nose in the type of shape it's in. But at that stage, for me, it was one of those ones, you either take boxing on real seriously or get into wrestling. And wrestling was a lot less impact on my face and on my head from what I thought. That could be wrong now from concussions. You never know how your brain actually looks, because you might think you're okay and you get some of the testing done. And it turns out, as with poor Chris Benoit, it was a lot worse than what you suspected it to be. But as of right now, I feel great. My brain feels really good. My head feels good. And I wanted to have my first boxing match this year. And I wanted to do an MMA fight. So I've been training really hard for years, kind of behind the scenes, grappling and doing jiu-jitsu and keeping my hand speed really fast. And Maria's doing boxing, and she wants to have a fight also. And I think she's going to be the dark horse. She's 23 years old, and I think she might become a professional boxing champion if she takes boxing on right now, for how much skill she has from what I see right now. And I've been around a lot of boxers and a lot of boxing champions in Canada. Her power is unmatchable. And her speed is just, and her form and technique for just being basically a beginner to this is fucking nuts. So that's my excitement, is to see if I push my buttons and I get my connections going, then other people can jump through those doors. I know Jack Evans has teased me about having a fight, an MMA fight or a kickboxing match. And same with D.H. Smith or Harry Smith. I know he wants to have his first fight, and I think he's negotiating potentially, or wanting to negotiate with Bellator and see what the connections with Josh Barnett and some of these guys are. But my school would be in Florida. It would be an MMA wrestling school, and also promoting these guys that are in my school to get serious and to have a fight and to build up what it means to have a fight in your city and to get the people from your city and to get the tickets sold and to get your family and get sponsors. And it's not just the boxing part of it, it's all the other parts that encompass being a professional and an entertainer and a fighter. And you might be a guy that has 3 fights. It might be an MMA fight, a wrestling match, and a boxing match. But I think they're all in the same kind of sport. And if you said you were playing hockey and you wanted to do speed skating at the same time as playing hockey, I don't think it would be a bad investment because you're on the ice either way and you're in the same building. So it's like you're just walking across the ring to do the training as a boxer. Might as well walk another 30 feet down to do the MMA training after that. And if you want to learn how to do grappling and jiu-jitsu and get punched in the face back and forth, might be smart to take all 3 and learn them all. And wrestling is basic martial arts. And the better you are,
sports.
yeah, it's the same. It's all the same to me. So it's like one of those things where I think it's a no-brainer to make these 3 sports one, and to have maybe the first ever universal boxing, wrestling, and grappling champion. Because I think Harry Smith might be that good that he could be a guy that's an MMA champion, or if it's just a grappling league where it's like a lot of these grappling leagues are no striking, but they have these grappling leagues out there that are basically like catch wrestling, submission style fights all over the world. Abu Dhabi has a big tournament every year, but it's like a not striking tournament, but it's all These are things that I think you'd be surprised. Some of the wrestlers that are in there might be a lot better than you think, and they might be a lot tougher than you think. It's just because CM Punk had 1 fight and it wasn't a good one. Bobby Lashley had a few, and he looked pretty solid to me. And Lesnar looked pretty good considering the little training he actually had. And if you get a couple other guys, like I say, you might be surprised. There might be some pretty tough guys in wrestling that are wanting to do fights. Like I say, I heard something about the champion from AEW that he's thinking of doing MMA stuff, or that he's training.
Right? Jake Hager?
No, Jake Hager's another guy, but who's the champion? I thought Dean Ambrose was the champion.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Dean Ambrose, right?
Ambrose, I think he might be another guy that's pretty tough, tough. Yeah. And he might be a guy that's... And he's in MMA. From what I hear, he's in a city that's got a lot of MMA. He's in Vegas, lives there. Oh, so the training there, he might be training a lot more than what people think. And same with Jack Hager. I've known Jack for years, or Jake for years, and I think I had my 3rd match in the WWE dojo with him, or the NXT when it wasn't before it was NXT, it was FCW. When it was FCW, I had a big match with him. I think it was my last match I had, or second last match I had out there, and he was phenomenal. That was one of his first big matches he ever had. And it's just like another guy that's a beast. And these are guys that are making wrestling fun for me as a fan, because I can watch them somewhere else now, or I know that they're serious because they're not just sitting on that check. They're training in another sport. It's like a guy playing hockey, training to hit fucking 3-pointers, and all of a sudden the guy's hitting 3-pointers in basketball. They put him on, and he's fucking got an NBA game under his belt or something like that. Or, I know it's probably not going to happen with other sports because they're serious about the competition and gambling. But in wrestling, you can make something happen out of thin air. You can create these cool controversies or cool angles because you have a good imagination. You got a couple good writers or directors in the back that are understanding of that wrestling's boring right now, seeing the same old shit. You got to mix it up. Have interpromotional stuff going on. It's way better. And if you can have intersports or intergender, these are things that just make it a little different. I don't mind a chocolate sundae, but throw me a different kind of, or put a different type of cherry on top, and I'm still going to eat it, and it still melts the same and looks the same after it's done. It's all the same shit, but if you put a little sparkles or sprinkles on it, it makes it a little different. Like having a steak and lobster on a paper plate. I mean, if steak and lobster tastes good, I'd rather have it on a glass plate with a few fucking side dishes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And yeah, there's a lot of tough guys, going back to what you're saying, in this business. But who's the toughest that you locked up with?
When I was in Vancouver, I believe it was Vancouver for the WWE In Your House pay-per-view, my uncle Owen had brought me and Tyson Kidd there, and I did something with Farouk. I don't know if you know who Farouk is or not. But,
yeah, Ron Simmons.
So Ron Simmons, he is a bad motherfucker, and Godfather was a bad motherfucker too. Those are some scary guys, but so cool and really nice. And then Nathan Jones, I think, happened to be there, and they wanted him to practice a couple moves. So he was actually picking me up for a choke slam from outside the ring backwards. So I was facing the opposite, facing the fans. He was grabbing my neck from the floor, reaching over the top rope, and then grabbing my wrist, and he was throwing me. And I was actually doing a backflip from the ground all the way over the top with him grabbing my neck and me grabbing his wrist. He was actually able to throw me all the way up into a backflip and I was trying to get him to catch me on the other side and give me a move. And I was in a pair of boxers and a pair of socks, even though I was there in a pair of dress shoes, thinking obviously I'm there to watch. This is after my brother had passed away, but he probably was the biggest, scariest guy I've ever, and I've been in the ring with almost everybody. I mean, I remember doing stuff with Giant Silva a long time ago at the dojo. He was 7'5" or 7'4". He was a big dude and body slam and stuff. But Nathan Jones was pretty scary. Chris Benoit said to me he was probably the scariest guy that he'd ever seen in person in a locker room, who'd done jail time, who'd been like, obviously he's a pretty serious background. And yeah, I watched him do a couple movies after that. Years later, Nathan Jones ended up doing Ong Bak and a few other movies. I think he did one with Jet Li, maybe too. But I'm not sure if it was with Jet Li. I forget who was with. But I mean, I've seen him do a couple of movie parts after, and he always looks pretty legit.
Dude, you mentioned WWE, and you had 2 runs in WWE, and the first run was between 98 and 02. And actually, you were the youngest wrestler signed to a contract. Can you talk to us about that experience back then?
A world of experience, unbelievable opportunity, young and just unaware of the pressure once you're there. Didn't think I was going to get signed when I got signed. Once I was signed, then all of a sudden you have a huge commitment ahead of you. I was like 150 pounds, very, very naive to how cutthroat the business was, and smoking way too much pot at that stage. Like I was really hooked badly because I've been using the marijuana to cope with the death of my brother and to cope with the death of my best friend who shot himself in the head right after speaking to me on the phone. And those 2 deaths kind of culminated into me it was either end my own life because of depression or smoke as much weed as I possibly could to shut the voices off and to shut the pain off. And when I got to WWE, it was one of those situations. It was WWF at the time, and nobody was there. Brett was gone. Davey was gone. Jim was gone. Pillman was gone, I think. Or Pillman was maybe there just for like the tail bit of it. But it wasn't. There was nothing good that I could do family-wise. There's nothing. I had nobody to ask about anything. I had no one to talk to. Owen was so busy with his stuff, and he wasn't in a good spot with his wife because she was upset that the whole thing was happening with Deborah on TV and that he was doing the Blue Blazer stuff. And it was a really bad time to have been signed. By being Teddy Hart at that stage, it probably was used against me, and I was held to a different type of criteria and under the magnifying glass. Yeah. And I fucking had an opportunity and I blew it. And Bruce Pritchard saved my life by sending me home early. And Tom and Bruce are guys that I think are still watching carefully to see what Teddy Hart can do. And when I came back when I was 27 or 28, there was the other type you're talking about the second time I got signed. Yeah. There was no reports, and you can go back and check. And maybe Bruce Pritchard or somebody will acknowledge this, but there was no reports of Teddy Hart doing anything bad at all. And I was basically... From what I understand, doing everything I was told to do, along with setting up the rings and going to these practices, which were, 6 hours long in a building with no air conditioning and, one small little bathroom. It wasn't the nice facility like NXT, and it was really hot in Florida and swampy and dirty and filthy, and setting up a ring every single day and taking it down every day to me was kind of weird. I've been doing it for 10 years before I ever got into wrestling, taking rings down and refereeing matches and setting up chairs and doing all sorts of grunt work because that's what the Hart teach too. But I've been wrestling for 13 years at that stage, and I consider myself a vet, and I had over 1,000 matches, and I don't mind. But when Steve Kearn's asking me to do a shooting star press every single day for practice, we just want to see if you can hit it. We just want you to hit it in practice. Pretend these practices are a WrestleMania. That's what they'd say. Yeah. To think these practices are you're wrestling in front of the whole world, or these are WrestleMania. You're having a WrestleMania match. So you're really trying to kill it. It's every single day. Sometimes you're wrestling 2 or 3 matches in a day, and you're trying to go as hard as you can. And it's like, fucking, it just beats up your body. And that was one out in WWE. The second time when I was there, I was like, it kind of feels like there's a plan, but it's not really for me to do shit but get worn out and basically to be able to say they had me but they couldn't use me. And it's like, well, what's the worst thing I did? I think I told Art Perez to set up a fucking ring and stop complaining And that was the only time I remember ever even having an incident with anybody ever, any kind of crossword with anybody the whole time I was there. Literally not one time. And out of nowhere, I get a call in the morning from Johnny Ace saying, "You're fired. We don't want to do anything with the Hart period." And the Tyson Kidd, I heard them say, "Well, then why did Tyson Kidd, Natalia, and Harry Smith all keep their jobs and you didn't?" I said, "Because none of them were using the Hart name. Natalia's a Neidhart. Tyson Kidd, Hart, and Harry Smith's using the Bulldog name."
Yeah.
So I was the only one using the Hart name, and I was trying to bring Jack Evans in at that stage really hard. I was pushing for him to get brought in, and he was living in Florida with me at the time. So it was supposed to be me and Jack versus TJ and Harry. And if we were together, it would be Hart Foundation with Brett and Jericho and Edge and Christian and maybe whoever, Mark Henry. You'd be surprised all the guys that were Brett's guys, that were Calgary guys that had come from. So they had their own idea. Court Bauer, I think, had pushed an idea with the Hart Foundation versus Evolution or whatever it was back in the day. Would have been Randy Orton and I think Cody Rhodes, or maybe it was the other two, whatever it was. There was a group of guys there. Jr., Cody Rhodes, I think Randy Orton, Batista, Triple H, Shawn, Ric Flair, and then it would have been Brett and us and Jericho and Benoit and Harry Smith and Natalia, and it sounded pretty awesome on paper, like the ultimate dream matches that I could have ever imagined, and real heat behind the scenes kind of, and enough to run that program probably for years, even till right now. That would be hot.
Dude, that's like the Canadian Stampede Part 2.
Yeah, except with way better guys, because I think the Road Warriors at that stage were way past their prime and they weren't really wanting to do anything. It was, if you watch that Canadian Stampede match, the ambiance and the environment was really cool, but the actual wrestling itself was not bad, but it wasn't crazy. And I understand the way it works and why it was like that, but to me, I would have rather seen Shawn versus Brett one-on-one in Calgary. And Davey versus or Owen versus Shamrock one-on-one, or Brian Pillman versus Austin one-on-one in Calgary. Like if that was going to be, you know what I mean? If I could have broken that group up and made it one-on-one matches, or Legion of Doom versus Brett and Owen for tag titles or something or whatever. There could have been some other matches that were really cool. And it was cool they had that one. But I mean, I'm always a guy that likes to live in a reality where I think one thing could be awesome. If it was turned into another thing, it could even be better. I could look back and see why that was really good then, and then what it would be worth now if people were still alive and I could do that. But again, that's me being a dreamer. So,
well, hey man, you talk about your first time over there in WWE, and 2 weeks from today, it's May 23rd, 2020. It would make 21 years that Owen Hart, your uncle, who tragically passed away. The story's finally coming to light Tuesday on Dark Side of the Ring, on Vice's Dark Side of the Ring. You were part of WWE during this time, and I've heard nothing but positive things about Owen Hart. There's not one person that had anything negative to say about him. Do you have one of your own Owen stories that stands out to you or that you can share with us?
Sure, I have a story about Owen Hart trying to get Tyson Kidd and I our driver's license. He said it would be a good idea if we got our learner's permits and our driver's license, and he would buy us a car. And I remember we were all excited about it. We got the books, and then for whatever reason, like 6 months went by and we never got shit done. And then Owen asked us what was going on. He said, "Listen, you guys, you're not taking a proactive approach. I wanted to get you guys a car and help you guys get your license and stuff. It's a good idea and it's a lot of responsibility, but you need to start stepping up, especially if you want to be a wrestler. A lot of the travel is driving from city to city to city. You don't realize that. You're not just flying everywhere you go. You got a lot of in-between drives for house shows, and this is something you want to get, equipped of handling these long roads and long trips. And the best way to do that is to get behind the wheel at a young age and get your license and get some responsibility and, show me that you guys are caring." And TJ, I remember we're both kind of looking in the mirror thinking, fuck it, we got to get a license. This is a big deal, and we're busy doing all of our little indie wrestling stuff. And, at that stage, it was small little things. We were doing wrestling outside or maybe the Rockyford Rodeo, but everything else seemed to take priority. And then, it's like we finally get out to Vancouver, and it's the free for all, or the brawl. I forget what it was called, the In Your House pay-per-view in Vancouver. Called Marco and Owen decide they want to take us out for dinner. And Owen's kind of ribbing us about not getting our licenses and wasting his time, and that we weren't serious. And I was like, and you don't want to let Owen down, especially when he's taking you. And then Owen had really taken us under his wing. This is after my brother had passed away, obviously, and Owen got us a few matches, and we wrestled in front of Vince and did an empty building match where just the boys came out and watched us train, and we were getting a lot of really good reports from guys like Mick Foley and Undertaker and weird old WWE guys that were just like super, super nice. And they thought it was so cool that these kids were wrestling, that we were wrestling and doing this stuff. So we had the ultimate high, and then we got to go out for dinner after. And Owen said, "Where do you guys want to go?" And Call DeMarco ended up choosing the Spaghetti Factory. So we went to the Spaghetti Factory, and there's a thing called Gas Alley or Gaslight Alley or something like that, it's like a weird part of Vancouver, but it's like all the really nice restaurants and, whatever, we're ordering whatever we want. It's a big deal. We're pretty humble. Like my dad we have a lot of money or businesses and stuff, but my dad always was very smart and frugal and he just had a different way of teaching us. So for me, I got to order whatever I wanted on the menu. It was a big deal. And we got to, we're with Call DeMarco, the president of WWE Canada, and he's telling us how we're going to have these big futures, and they're all excited about us. And they're telling us, if we're staying on the right path, by the time we're 17, 18, we finish school, we could be signed to these contracts, and how cool, so, but long story short on that, we're on the ultimate high, and we're just so excited. And Owen and Carl say, let's go look at the views. Vancouver's got a lot of cool views. So we went out to this area, and we're looking at these cliffs, and they're high up there. And if you fall, you're dead. If you slip and fell, so somehow I hear something in the trees, and I don't know what it is, but I'm like, we're wondering what it is. And Owen's, I guess, so smart, he's already got this worked out in his head. But so now I'm distracted with this, what's in the trees. But I guess Owen had spotted a raccoon in the trees, but he didn't say anything. So now I'm wondering what's in the trees, and I'm kind of getting scared. And TJ's looking over. We're wondering what's in the tree, and we're right on the edge of this cliff. And there's some bushes and some shits inside there. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah. And then we're looking around and trying to see what it is. I see a set of eyes pop up, and I'm like, whoa! And I jump back, and I don't know what it is. And I'm now trying to kind of investigate at the same time. Maybe it's like a cougar or something, or some kind of snake. I don't even, my head's spinning, and so Carl's like, careful, you want to watch out. I kind of back up, and then I turn my back around, and Owen pops out of the side and scares the shit out of me and pushes me off this cliff, and then now he got me suspended, and if he hadn't caught me, I would have been dead. I remember him thinking I fucking would have fallen right over that cliff. He caught me, thank God. But
yeah, jeez.
And it was like, for that second, my life flashed in front of my eyes, because I thought I'd slip, and I was like, fuck, in my head, I'm like, how stupid am I? I realized right as I'm slipping, it's a raccoon. Who gives a shit? And then I realized after that Owen had fucking had me, and he had the back of my shirt, and I'm hanging there by the back of my shirt, and fucking almost off the cliff, and fucking, I remember that was the most scared I've ever been in my life. I had never felt like, I thought I was going to die for that split second. I remember thinking, fuck, dude, that was way worse than getting choked out or put in a submission or having them steal my bags or whatever ribs had happened. That was the closest for me. And I remember just thinking, fuck, Owen, thank God he's got that timing, because if he had pushed me and not caught my shirt, I'd be fucking dead.
Dude, you wouldn't be here right now. I would be talking to you.
Oh, so it was that was the most scared I've ever been, and I remember thinking that was a rib that I would probably never pull on somebody, but thank God it was Owen, and he was blessed, and that he caught me in time. But yeah, that was the most scared I've ever been in a rib situation.
Well, dude, I appreciate you sharing the story with us. And what about Davey? I know you and Harry Smith, Davey Boy Smith Jr., very close. Any stories about the Bulldog?
Yeah, well, just tell a story about his generosity. There must have been about 13 people at the house, at my dad's gym, we'll say, because we live in a gym. We have the house on top or whatever. But there was a lot of fans there, and we were going to go out for sushi. Davey has a special sushi restaurant called Sushi Hero, and he knows the chef there, and they bring in a lot of their stuff fresh from Vancouver. And we knew the pilot that used to bring in the fish for them, and it was a big deal. They really spent a lot of time. And Calgary's got a lot of really rich, expensive restaurants. It's a weird city. There's a lot of money there, even though it's maybe 1 million people only. It's not the biggest city in the world, but they have a lot of wealthy people there, and a lot of people from international countries. That's where they have one of their residences, is because it's got the mountains, and it's got all the national parks and stuff within a 2-hour drive, and then Montana and the U.S. borders on the other side. It's another 3 hours the other way. So it's kind of central in between two really cool spots. And for whatever reasons, they had this top sushi restaurant, one of the best ones in the world, at least that I was told. And Davey's eating the sushi everywhere, so he always said this place was, so it's a big deal. And I remember a couple of the guys I could see they kind of walked out because they knew they didn't have any money, and maybe like 5 or 6 people I could see them kind of getting together. And then one of the other guys was being a kind of a douchebag about how expensive the sushi was, and yeah, we don't need a bunch of freeloaders here fucking eating off Davey's plate. And it wasn't his place to say. I remember I'm not going to say his name, but he was kind of talking for Davey when he didn't have shit to do with Davey or his money, and Davey was so generous that Davey went and whispered to these other guys that had kind of been blown off that they weren't welcome to come for dinner, that the dinner was on him and that he would take care of it. And then Davey set it up where he had the bill go to this other guy for a second, and Davey walked away like he was gone out of the restaurant, and his wife had followed out. So it looked like Davey had actually left the bill and snuck it on this other guy that was bitching. It was like an $800 bill. So this guy's talking at the table, and Davey's gone, and his wife's gone, and all of a sudden the bill comes to him, and the chef has told us to make sure you pay me now. I don't get a good feeling from you. So the guy says, I don't get a good feeling from you. It's a rib. He knew it was. Yeah. It was another. So the guy's like, what do you mean you get a good feeling from me? You don't even know who I am. He's like, yeah, well, people don't want to eat with you. Nobody likes you. And then I was like, what? And he's like, and he goes, here's the bill. And he's like, oh, I'm not paying the bill. Davey is. And he's like, no, Davey said you're paying the bill. Davey's gone. Davey's gone. And the guy's like, no, I'm not paying it. But it was, so about a half an hour later, Davey comes back in and his wife come back in and they clear the bill up. And it was just funny watching that guy sitting there, and they weren't letting him out of the restaurant. They're like, you need to pay the bill now. And he's like, oh, I'm just going to leave. It's not my bill. They're like, no, leave. And they kind of held him there, like not against his will, but they kind of, and then all of a sudden, Davey came back and cleared the bill up, and then he told that guy, the reason that happened to you is because you decided on who was going to eat when it wasn't your decision, and it's up to me on who I want to eat with and who I spend my money and time with, not up to you. So keep your business to yourself, type of thing. And it kind of snatched the guy for being a cheapskate and for trying to basically, he was happy to go eat Davey's food. He never offered. And Davey said the guy always would eat everything. And they'd always go out, and the guy would order fucking 3 times.
One of those kind of people. Oh, God.
Get to go container and take a bunch of food home with him, and never once did he to pay for shit, this cheapskate. And then he was the first guy to tell other people not to come for dinner so he could eat more food himself. And Davey said he had enough of it and caught him. But it was a nice little. It was nice to see how generous Davey was, and it was also nice to see how fast he was on his feet, because he caught that guy earlier and then made sure everybody got to go for dinner, and then made sure the people that went for dinner all got their time with him. And then after the dinner was up, the cheapskate guy that was bitching, he got to be stuck with the bill for a half an hour to see what it's like to have to pay an $800 bill, and it was like, and he came in class act and paid the bill and made sure to tip everybody, and the people that were there, it got a little taste of Davey's sense of humor, because Owen and Davey could be ruthless fucking murdering bastards if they wanted to be, but instead they were guys that were making people laugh and doing funny ribs most of the time. Like, I've heard some nasty ribs in wrestling and cutthroat type of shit, like putting something in someone's drink or fucking injecting somebody with something saying it's HIV as a joke, or like blading and then looking like the guy was killed. I heard of a guy blading, and like Brian Pillman did it to Bill Kazmaier, where he bladed and acted like he was cut and that someone had robbed him or jumped him or whatever. He's bleeding everywhere like it was a real fight. Another time where 2 guys acted like they were fighting and the other guy acted like he killed him.
Oh, shit.
And the guys in the van are new guys to the wrestling, and they're like, what the fuck's going on? These guys are fighting right outside in the van, and the guy pulls out a knife and looks like he's stabbing him, but it's one of those little rubber knife, the knife with the track in and out, so it looks like they're shagging him, and the guy's got a blood capsule, and it looks like he's stabbing the shit out of him. It was a fucking complete. It never happened.
Why would they do something like that? I mean,
the guy's head's super bad that he quit. The guy didn't want to. He literally got out of the van at the next town and he didn't want to be in the van with these guys, and they had to show him it was a rib. And he was so mad that it was a rib after he wasn't cool though, even though he knew after it was a rib. Sometimes I ribbed a few guys with like their passports are lost and I'll find it and or like customs needs to talk to you, and I'll have a guy on the phone saying, hey, listen, you didn't come into the country, right? We're going to have to come pick you up, and you're going to 5 days in jail. And like, then after seeing their reaction, they weren't happy after. Like, it wasn't like one of them, they were cool. They were like pissed off for the whole next week. They still couldn't, they kept thinking it was real. I don't know if that makes sense, but they kept flashing back. Like, so you sure they're not coming to get me? Like, customs, no. I'm like, dude, it was a joke. Ribs anymore. I try not to do any ribs really whatsoever anymore, because I find that if you rib somebody, you might think it's really funny, but somehow somebody else takes it wrong or you hurt their feelings. Like, I ribbed a guy named Ben Scheinberg, and I have a feeling somehow, some way, poor Ben felt that he needed to get some kind of revenge for being ribbed, and like then you don't know what they're wanting to do back, and you're also setting yourself up for some kind of fuck situation where if you rib too many people too many times, you might get something that happens back to you that's not so funny. If that,
Yeah, calm, yeah, man. But I want to switch gears real quick. Let's talk MLW. You were the longest reigning middleweight champion there. You won the belt in a 5-way ladder match. 1 year after that, you dropped it to Myron Reed, and then a week later, you were released. What happened?
I didn't like the direction the company was going in with me having to carry Brian Pillman Jr. basically with who never came to my house once, never practiced once, didn't do anything to me to really better himself. And I had big plans for Brian, and I wanted to get him into gymnastics and get him taking some different classes and learning some combos and some cool shit, some tag team moves. So if it was me and him instead of me and Harry, it wasn't just that same match every time. And Brian talked a good game, and then we hung out in Dallas after at a party, and we all went out and hung out with some strippers and stuff. And Brian just, to me, he wasn't professional, and then he seemed like a hypocrite. And then he had something to say about me and Maria, somehow that she was a distraction, or she brought in. It's like, Maria's done nothing but help me out and save my life, for real. And it's so fucking big deal if I went to jail or I got arrested for fucking weed and steroids at this stage. If that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me again, and that's the worst thing I've ever done, or some bullshit where something happened with a domestic violence thing, which is immediately dropped. And I have a 200-pound student who's a killer, my female student who's not some little baby who I'm going to be beating up or choking out or slapping around. That's fucking bullshit. She'll grab a knife and stab me in the face if I was a scumbag. She'd definitely not put up with it. She's not that type of person to put up with any of that bullshit. So it's like I hear these things and it's like, this is stupid shit. And if this is the worst thing that's ever happened and this is the worst thing you can ever say, then fucking who cares? But with MLW, it's like MLW decides to jump the gun, and I have a reputation to uphold behind the scenes that there's just certain things I'm not going to put up with. And Brian being the way he was, he's riding my coattails, and basically he's carrying around a belt that he doesn't even win because they're doing Freebird rules. So it's Freebird rules. So Brian's pretending to be an interim champion for stuff. And I'm like, so we're going to lose the tag titles. Harry's not my partner. Brian is. I'm like, I don't really think it's a good idea. If Brian's my guy and I lose, why would it? And why is it every time that I'm going to do something, the Hart Foundation comes to the ring with me every time, but now they're not coming to the ring with me because every time they don't come to the ring, something happens. I'm like, to me, that's bad writing. And there's just a lot of bad writing going on with certain things, like a lot of great writing on other things too. Like they did an unbelievable job. I love Court and MSL for some stuff, but a couple of the things they were doing, I'm like, there's so much more potential. And they just didn't seem to care. And then they gave me there's some stuff going on in your personal life that we think could come back to affect us. We want to have you sit on the bench for 6 months and just sideline you for a while and say you got a fireball in the eye. And I said, that's really cool. I said, but I'm not down for that. I want my release. I said, if you guys want to use me in the future, I asked for my release.
Okay.
Never ever got fired from MLW.
So you were fired. You asked for it.
Got fired from Impact, never had a job in Impact that I asked for. Got brought in for 2 shows or 3 shows, beat up CM Punk, and they offered me a contract after that with Impact, and I wasn't able to sign it because I thought maybe I'd get eventually a WWE run, and I had my own thing going in Canada. So no, never was fired from Ring of Honor either. Worked for 2 shows for them. That was it. Did an indie show, 1 show for them one time, and then did another match after that, and got the whole thing with kicked out of the building and all that crap, which again, a lot of it's not true. It's not exactly the way it happened. I'm not getting into it. It's so far back in the past, but 3rd match I did, they brought me back. That was the last match I ever did. There's no fired from Ring of Honor. There's no fired from Impact. There's no WWE brought me in when I was 18 years old, and I was fired then. And then WWE brought me in when I was 27, and I was fired then. And that was the only time I've been in companies where I was ever fired. And it's just like, these are little things that people have. These are misconceptions or misbeliefs about certain situations. It's like, whatever. But yeah, that MLW situation I would love to go back there and work with them. They have a ton of potential. I loved how they took care of me, and they allowed me to wrestle, and they allowed me to be my own character. And Court's one of the coolest guys in the world. And I love Court, and I owe Court my life, and I owe Conan probably and Court and MSL a huge thank you for the last 2 years of what happened in my career that are really, really good things. And the belt meant a lot to me, and to have 2 belts at the same time in a company like that, you can't ask for anymore. I just want them to understand now I'm training really, really hard I'm in tremendous shape now. I went to jail. I came out of jail bigger, faster, stronger with a cool story and credibility and reliability and trust that I need to build back up. And if that's those are things I need to work on, then please put me in a situation where you can watch that and then analyze my behavior and results turn out to be good ones. Then I would like to spot back on TV. I'd like an opportunity to fight for that world title. I don't think of any other companies as home, but MLW is my home. I think that's the company that will always understand and give Teddy Hart the opportunity to make a comeback or to fix a situation if they didn't like how it happened. There's nothing I did that was that bad. I never burned any bridges. I never talked any shit. They asked me to do something. I said I didn't want to. I asked for a release. They gave me my release. I still consider them best friends of mine and really, really potentially the only company that I would try to invest money into. If I was going to put big money into something, MLW would be a company I'd be willing to invest in. But that goes back to wanting them to go into Canada then and do MLW Canada or my own version of what I do with MLW, some of the MLW talent or MLW management is like Court's my partner in Canada. He still has MLW in the States and he has his own show, but we do this other show in Canada. Court's my partner, but Court's an actual character, more of a character on TV, not just Court Bauer behind the scenes. I would like Court Bauer, the guy and he may not be comfortable doing that. And that's another thing. Yeah. Same with MSL. If I'm going to bring him back to Canada, I would like him to be a little bit more vocal or a little bit more public, and that way I can get an angle out of those guys because those two are cool characters. Like Court did something on MLW TV where he described getting hit with a broomstick by Gary Hart or whatever as an angle, but I thought that was when Court was his best and he was the most creative because he was getting involved in angles and doing little things there instead of being so behind the scenes. My idea was to have him do a little bit more actual in-ring stuff or be my manager or manage the fact that he represents the MLW brand for this World League of Fighting that we're doing, which is challenging all the other promotions or all of the other wrestlers to come to Canada and to do these 6-man, 8-man, and 10-man tag matches. And that's like so. But again, I hope I answered you along the lines of like.
No, you did. You did, and I would love to see you back in MLW. I think if that can come to fruition, your plans with the Canadian connection and MLW, that would be great. We could see a lot of different things happen. And Court coming on TV, playing more of a role like Vince did in WWE or something like that. Yeah, that would be awesome. And Court's a good dude, man. But you were part of another company, independent wrestling company, the one I represent right now, BCW. And you had a little run-in with Eric Jaden. I didn't think that match ended the way you wanted it to end. And right now, Jaden, he's on track for possibly becoming BCW World Champion. And he has a squad behind him right now protecting him. Now, let's just say, hypothetically, you would have stepped back into the ring, into a BCW ring, to extract some revenge on Jaden.
I want cops there. I want that guy to have the fucking cops in the building because I want the cops to witness. You hired this guy to work New York PD, and sure, he might be a good cop, but cop and wrestler are two different things, and you can't cop a plea of crybaby bitch or I hope you understand when I say cop a plea. He's going to be in court with me, and the ring is the fucking courtroom, and the audience is the jury, and my face without a mask on still is the executioner and the excellence of execution and the evolution of execution, if you understand what I mean. And I've taken what Brett's done, the best there is, the best there is, the best there is, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, whatever story. I mean, I heard it 1,000 times. All I know is that you better be the best you ever have been, Eric Jaden. You better be in the top shape of your life. You better be training, and you better make sure that the cops that you have watching you, maybe they just arrest me before I get in the building, because if they don't, I'm going to bring you a whole world of pain and a whole list of complaints after, of what you owe me now, because I just gave you back your life. Instead of killing you right in the ring and leaving it as that, I want that 3 matches. I want to have the best of 3 with you, and I want a reward. After I beat you the 3rd time, or if it's 2 out of 3 for the 3, I get something with the police. And I get to do something with you and the police. And if it's a fundraiser or raise money, or I get to take another police officer that's always thought you're a pussy, and he gets to tag up with you, kick your ass 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 in the ring. So maybe that's something. But there's got to be a chief of police or somebody out there that's a fan of wrestling and understands we love law enforcement, and without good law enforcement and everyone saying fuck the cops and all this crazy shit to me, without law enforcement, there's no structure in the world.
You're going to need some backup. You know, Jaden got a crew. He got the Satsuchin squad. I mean, who can you trust right now?
I have a couple guys I like. I like Jimmy Lloyd and Nick Gage a lot. Both those guys are kind of guys that have my back in situations where I might need to call somebody from a surrounding city that's close enough, because those guys live there. And I got Orlando and a few of our guys in Violence and Suffering. We're thinking of doing an interpromotional kind of angle with BCW. And Anthony Cole, thank you so much for the opportunity to do something and to work a program, and everyone understands what this business is about. Obviously, I respect the hell out of any promoter out there that's willing to take a chance and run a promotion. And if you do it right, and the boys are happy and the fans are satisfied, and you keep coming back consistently, that's a really big deal for me.
What advice would Teddy Hart in 2020 give Teddy Hart in 1995?
Train more legs and probably love myself more. Don't be so hard on yourself. A lot of the stuff that happened, I think, happened for reasons that I couldn't see why, or like a mystery for me on a lot of stuff on why I wasn't on TV earlier. This should have happened then. But I keep seeing now that I've been able to do so much in wrestling and wrestled so many different guys and had great experiences with literally probably 50 different wrestlers that are all either on TV now or about to get on TV or have been on TV for a while and are extremely successful. And it's just nice to see that just one or two matches with me changed the course of their life for the better. And the fact that there's so many guys I know that are doing so well, to me, I don't think I would ask Teddy Hart to really do much more than just be aware now of that. At that stage then, I didn't know enough, but maybe I knew exactly what I needed to know. And that God had a plan for me, and was to get to this point now. And this is the now where I think at 40 to 50 is the most dangerous Teddy Hart's ever going to be in wrestling. The best shape I've been in, the best mental, physical, and spiritual awakening and understanding and of self-awareness, and just the most polished now. I really understand. So I would think I would just tell myself just to be patient. Be patient and watch and wait and see what God offers you. And if that meant 15 years or 20 years of waiting in limbo, while I was in limbo, I got to eat a lot of great meals. I got to meet a lot of really cool people. I got to make a lot of beautiful outfits. I got to have a lot of beautiful cats and dogs and experience a life that no one really got to experience because I had time on my hands and they didn't. So if that makes sense to you, I usually go back in retrospective thinking, and to me, or changing something would then change where I'm at now. And where I'm at now is probably a spot where I'm relaxed. I'm happy. I have a few people in my corner, and I'm still... my best friend is still close enough to me that I can do whatever I want, basically with help and guidance and love. And I'm not alone right now. And that to me is the most important thing, is just that I don't have to say that somebody's my wife to have a wife or to have a partner or to be this my best friend. But my best friend, Maria's still my best friend in the whole world, and she takes good care of me for whenever she has the time and energy to do training and to get stuff done. I think that's something that's on our page of basically the future goals, is to just train, and to become the most dangerous people we can be as weapons, and use our body as weapons. And just, again, the stuff I have now is more valuable to me. The experience I have from losing or not getting, we'll say, what you wanted so fast, is you find other ways to get other things done. And then those things, you start to realize what the importance of what really matters in life. And I've had a lot of money, and I've driven a lot of cars, and I've been all over the world. But the responsibility, when you get a lot of responsibility and a lot of power, comes great responsibility. And I maybe just wasn't ready for that type of responsibility up until maybe last year, is when I really was wanting to have 50, 60, 100 bookings, and I wanted to be accountable, and I was willing to take that type of chance on my body and the pressure of traveling so much, and then also being accountable for all these great matches before. Just, I didn't need it, and it wasn't a big deal, but at time's running out, and you want to make things count when you get your at bat, especially if you're older and they thought maybe you didn't have it anymore. Then you really want to make sure to show the people, the critics out there, that Teddy Hart's bigger, better, and faster than ever now. And that's because of the struggle and emerge atmosphere, a struggle and emerge type of idea or mindset, where no matter what happens, I'm going to come out of it bigger, faster, stronger, and fucking smarter.
Dude, 26 years. 26 years in the business, all the depths, the hardships, everything that happened. you're still here. You persevered. You're resilient. And I got to ask you, what is next for Teddy Hart?
Let's just say closure, get this case behind me, get this thing done, and figure out where I'm at with that, and then getting back on the road and wrestling in as many different cities and in as many different promotions as I possibly can, and having quality matches, not quantity, but quality. And obviously quantity is nice if you can have quality and quantity. I'd rather have a lot of Red Lobster than a little, but if I can have a little of something, it's still better than nothing.
Absolutely, man. And I want to give you the floor right now. Whatever it is that you want to get off your chest before we sign out, the floor is yours.
Just I have a new podcast and Open Heart Surgery with Teddy Hart. It's basically about me talking to fans. I'm really not trying to interview a bunch of big stars or guys I want to interview fans on their story of what made wrestling cool for them, or what changed their life, or how they've gone through some adversity and came out on the other side, their experiences. So I'm kind of like the guy that thinks fans are stars, and I'm more interested in hearing what the fans have to say. And if that makes them a big star to me, then guess what? I'm interviewing a big star because I'm talking to you right now. That's to me why I did it, because you're just expressed an interest, so you're my fan. And to me, that's the most important thing you can fucking be, was an honest fan that came out with, this is what I want to do, and I want to talk to you about a bunch of things. And you took 5 minutes out of your day to talk to me and smile at me, and then went out of your way to make sure I was compensated for my time, and you gave me value. And by doing that, you've earned a friend for life. And then with that type of mentality, I'm really, dude, it's like winning a lottery. Every day I get a new message from a fan that met me at a show that's got a picture to prove it, and he's saying something cool about me. Every day I'm on Facebook reading a message. I had like 5 people message me in the last hour asking for pictures, just coincidentally. 3 people saying, I'll pay you money for a picture. To me, guys, I'm sorry, but every picture I sell or every picture I take and get, it's a big fucking deal for me. I don't know why it means so much, but I mean, I should be desensitized to it already. But every time a guy takes 5 minutes to come shake my hand or say that he met me and he liked me, or he watched my match and he knows a move, or he remembers something, or an interview and he quotes me something from one of my shoot interviews where I'm rambling fucking on about whatever, these guys remember, and they say bullet points, and dude, you guys gave me a life, you gave me a value, you gave me a purpose, man. Without a purpose, life's fucking miserable, and it's a lonely path, and nothing's worse than being stuck in a jail cell by yourself. And any car, any place, any room, any house is a jail cell if you don't have somewhere to go and somewhere to fucking be with and spend time with and pray with and have fun with and get old with. And to get old, maybe you end up getting young again, because science and technology are so good in the future that if you get smart and you keep taking care of your body and everything, and in 10 years from now, you don't know what's possible. But I'd like to think there's some pretty exciting things on the horizon for health and wellness and awareness and self-awareness. If you want to live longer and be happy, say your prayers, guys, take your vitamins, go to the gym, be nice to people. Karma's the real son of a bitch. If she's against you and if she likes you, then life's a pretty wonderful thing, and you got a life jacket of other people's wonderful thoughts and protection around you to navigate this fucking wonderful thing called life, and to be safe and to have people care about you. And that's what I want. I want as many friends and fans as I can to be my family in the future. Friends become family, and fans become friends, and then friends become fans, and then they become fans of me, and I become fans of them. We're all a fucking big family.
It's a fucking cycle.
Exactly.
Dude, I appreciate you, Teddy. And, I got to tell you, man, again, every time I've been to a show that featured you on there, you're a stand-up guy, you're a class act. I don't care what these internet dirt sheet, whatever everybody talks about out there, because you know what? Again, there's multiple sides to a story. You got to go straight to the horse's mouth, straight to Teddy Hart himself. And if they met you in person, they would know that it's bullshit.
And I appreciate that, my friend, so much. And speaking of the horse, Tyson Kidd is the workhorse in this family. As a Hart family, he did the most work out of everybody in the family to keep the name alive, him and Natalia. And the Hart family would be done right now if it wasn't for them. I just want to say thank you for everything you do for me, guys. Thank you for keeping me out of jail. Thank you for getting me back out of jail. Thank you for believing in me and visiting me in the WWE rehab facility. And Ellie, thank you for everything. Orlando, thank you for everything. I just want to... You guys have saved my life and changed my life. And Brett Lauderdale, thank you. Court Bauer, MSL, thank you guys for believing in Teddy Hart. And I hope I can come back, guys, and make you proud again. And James Otavera from the BN Sport Network, another guy that was a huge angel in my corner. And Tommy Dreamer. And I'll even say thanks to Bully Ray, because I was in Ring of Honor and I hadn't been there in a long time. And he kind of was one of the guys that runs the show there. And he made me feel very welcome and actually asked Maria to tell me to bring my cat. and I brought the cat, and that's kind of a small way of me interacting with some of the guys that I don't know that well, but to come in and to talk about something else than wrestling. And he was really, really nice to me. And these guys, to me, those are things that he didn't have to be nice to me. He's a millionaire, big star. Tommy Dreamer's a big star. They don't need me for nothing. They don't even need to be my friend or acknowledge my existence, but they took extra time out of their day to be nice to me. Delirious, Ring of Honor, Kerry, Joe, all the guys that are running that company, thank you guys for letting me come in your building and walk around the back, and thank you for giving me a VIP seat and letting me watch your wonderful promotion. They just did a fantastic job when I was there watching. Their production was top-notch. Everything they did was really, really good and professional. I see a huge, huge, huge future for Ring of Honor and for Impact. Scott D'Amore is another guy, just very smart, really cool, gave me an opportunity. I worked a couple in-between matches for him while I was with MLW, and just another guy that's a big fan of Teddy Hart. D'Lo Brown, another guy, did some commentary. I talked to him behind the scenes, and he was there in Impact when I did the matches for him. And these guys went out of their way to really make me feel valued again and gave me a purpose and to tell me that they want to work in the future together. So that's what I'm hoping is a really bright future for Teddy Hart. From 40 to 50 are my best years. And to everyone, please keep track of it. Watch YouTube videos of everything that has to do with wrestling, and especially watch Teddy Hart sometimes if you want to understand what I did for you to smile and clap. It wasn't about the money. It's about the honey. And the honey is the sweet feeling you get when you watch Teddy Hart, and the nice flavor you have after you speak my name after you've met me, not just heard some bullshit about me. Meet me and then tell me something bad about me after you've met me.
100%, Teddy. Thank you. You always keep it straightforward, honest. I respect that about you. Where can the fans find you right now?
I think those are going to be things you have to tell them, because I really don't know. I think it's like it's Twitter, and I have to get control of my Twitter a little bit more right now because I do it with someone else, but it's one of those things I'm trying to get a hold of that situation. And Facebook, obviously, and Messenger, and I think we're working on an Instagram, and we're working on the YouTube Patreon channel and the account, and people are going to start seeing my We Can Change the World show. And
yeah, 100%. I'm going to get the message out there, Teddy. Teddy, thank you very much for jumping on BCW Kirk.
No problem, guys. God bless you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to my fans. Love you guys. Pray for the world to get better and fast. I want to be back in the ring and seeing my fans' faces and giving some hugs and kisses out there. Peace, guys. God bless you.
You know, I'm a firm believer that you have to see for yourself. You shouldn't sit here and take somebody else's word for it, okay? The bottom line is, whether you love him or you hate him, you have to, and I mean you have to, respect Teddy Hart. I seen him, I met him. He's a humble guy. He's a stand-up guy. He's a genuine individual. Now, we may not know exactly what happens behind the scenes, but the man is human. We are all human. We all make mistakes, okay? It's about owning up to them, and he owns up to them. He's a straight shooter, and he's very honest, and you have to appreciate that about Teddy Hart. Teddy, we hope to have you in a BCW ring very, very soon. I appreciate you taking this time, and I wish you nothing but the best. Nothing but well wishes to you, Maria, and the family. God bless you, and hang in there, buddy. Things are going to get better. And now it's time for one of my favorite segments in pro wrestling of the week, 5 minutes of faith with a faithful fan. And you know, this week just seems to be like a roller coaster of emotions. And this fan that jumped on to chat with yours truly, I gave him the floor and I told him, listen, you can talk about anything you want. Does not have to be wrestling related because of the times that we are going through right now. And I believe mental health is so important. We have to give people that outlet to vent. And well, this fan did just that. So let's take a look and listen at this week's episode, 5 minutes of faith with the faithful.
All right, BCW Faithful. Now it's time, finally, for my favorite segment of the week, the 5 minutes of faith with the BCW Faithful. And today, a very special BCW Faithful fan, Mr. Isaac M. I'm not going to give your whole government out, Isaac, but how have you been, buddy?
I've been all right. Taking it easy, step by step, just staying home, watching movies and playing games and TV shows.
I want to give you the floor. I do it every single week. I give the fans the floor. Whatever's on your mind.
Well, I mean, what can I say? I'm pretty sure everybody feels what I feel. Like, I hate this whole coronavirus. I haven't been outside in weeks. I haven't seen my girlfriend since March 16. So, I miss her a lot. And I wish she was here with me, just spending these days together. And 2020 really sucks right now. March 16th wasn't the only time that I've seen my girlfriend, but my grandmother passed away.
I'm sorry.
As well.
Hit it.
She suffered Alzheimer's, and she was just slowly fading. And March 16th, she went. So my girlfriend was here with me that day, and she held me. She did her best to comfort me on my tough time. I'm gonna miss my grandmother a lot, but she's in a better place. She's not suffering, and I know she's happy where she's at. Once all of this is over, I'm telling you, Jimmy, I'm hitting the bars. I'm drinking with my friends. We're just gonna go at it and have a blast.
Dude, I got to tell you first and foremost, I'm terribly sorry for that, for your loss of your grandmother. It's horrible. My grandmother, when I lost her, it was probably the hardest thing I had to go through. I was very, very close with her. And I'm also sorry that, you can't be with your loved ones and your girlfriend right now. This is going to pass. We got to stay positive. Once things do clear up, you got around, you and your girlfriend, it's around on me, maybe even a free meal on me. In the BCW family, for sure, man. We're going to give you some tickets as well to the next show, the first show we have, and we're going to have a good time, man, because that's what's needed. It sucks, and unfortunately, we don't know when things are going to get back to normal and when and what the new normal is going to be. But one thing I can guarantee you, Isaac, I can guarantee you this, is that once we do get back to some sort of normal, you got a special day, one whole day. I don't care whatever you want to do with this guy right here, with Jimmy J. I don't know if that means anything to you. May not mean anything, but you know what? I love you guys. I love the fans, and I want to help everybody out in some capacity, and so does BCW.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it a whole lot, and I'm going to hold you to that.
No, seriously, that's it.
Hold you to that. I also miss my son. I haven't seen my son since February, and I wanted him to come out for my grandmother's funeral so, he could say his final goodbyes, because I don't think he's ever been to a funeral. And I don't want to take that from him, because you don't know how that would affect him in the future. But with this whole coronavirus, I agree. Me and his mother spoke, and I agree with her that he should just stay where he's at until, this whole thing is over. And if anything, I'll just take him, to the grave. To the gravesite, and show him where his grandmother and grandfather, his great grandmother and his great grandfather is buried, and let him say his goodbyes there.
I mean, have you been able to use social media to see your son on like a FaceTime or?
Yeah, we FaceTime every once in a while. But I always ask his mom how he's doing, and sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's bad news. I mean, he's a kid, so. Yeah, he's always going to test those waters, So, I just hope that whatever, since me and his mom didn't work out, I just hope that he knows that it's not his fault. Like when I was a kid and my parents got divorced, I was always blaming myself, and I had to see a therapist and talk to the woman, and my mom and even my father was telling me, it's not your fault. It just never worked out. But something in your mind sticks with that idea that it's your fault when you're a kid. Like, was it something I did? Did my father not love me enough? Did he not wanted to stay, with my mom? Did he not want to be around me? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of things just goes in your mind, but I just hope that my son doesn't get those ideas, and I hope that he does know that it's not his fault. It just never worked out. Most of the times it's my fault, being an idiot, but yeah.
But dude, you know what? You're a great father, and it's a blessing, to have a child. I don't have one of my own, but I know I've heard a lot of stories, and I have stepdaughters, and one of my stepdaughters just recently had a baby, and it's like the greatest thing in the world, and it's also scary, like you said. You got to raise. You're looking after somebody else's life. Somebody else's life is in your hands. Mm-hmm. But I know you as a person. We haven't really had a lot of time to hang out and get to know each other like that. But I've met you once at the watch parties that we throw, and I know you're a genuine dude. I speak to you online. You don't blame yourself as long as you're there as a father, okay? And he's going to see that. The kid's going to see that you're going to be there. And I know you are. I know you're going to be there. I could just tell by this conversation, you love your son very much. There's a lot of deadbeat dads out there, and it's unfortunate. And deadbeat moms as well, and that's unfortunate. But you know what? As long as you do the right thing, okay, everything's going to be fine. What is the first thing that you want to do, though, once everything is lifted?
Well, hoping that, if everything's lifted, of course, movie theater, I want to go to a movie, man. I love movies. Movies has always been my thing since I was a kid, TV as well. I want to catch a good flick with my girlfriend. I want to catch a kid's movie with my son.
Yeah.
And that was my special thing with my kid. I always took him to the movies. Whatever cartoon movie came out, I took him to see it. And that's only because I too wanted to see it. Me being a kid at heart, like some of these animations that come out, you sit there, it's like, why weren't these movies out when I was a kid?
Talking wrestling real quick, what match would you like to see in BCW?
Well, to be honest with you, bro, I can't get enough of Tasha Steelz, man. I love that girl, and she's always out there shouting out Boricua, and she makes me proud being a Puerto Rican. So I definitely want to catch her in a match with whoever. I don't care who it is, you know what I'm saying? Just have her out there, and like I really love her. She's I don't know what it is about her, but there's something about her that draws me to her. It's just not about the Puerto Rican thing, none of that. But there's something about her.
It's the swag.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's the swag. I love her style. I like how she comes out, and she's like very energetic. You know what I'm saying? And she really does her best in the ring. Matter of fact, the last time I saw her was in NWA, the match that she had, and I was like, yo, she's fucking phenomenal. Like, and I even looked her up in past matches, and I checked her out. And I was like, why hasn't nobody even signed her? I mean, I wouldn't want her, to be honest with you. I wouldn't want her to go to WWE because they don't know how to build up their talents, So I don't care where she goes to, Ring of Honor, NWA, even though she's had quite a few matches in Ring of Honor. The last, I think she did the triple threat women's match that she had in Ring of Honor. That was wonderful, bro.
I can agree with you. It's something about her. I really think it's just the swag, man. It's the whole demeanor, how she delivers.
Yeah, I think
the
so.
Cockiness in the ring too.
Yeah, man.
Right on the turnbuckle, what are you gonna do?
And I wouldn't even know what I would do, if I was to meet her.
Maybe make that come to fruition. Maybe have her at a watch party.
Oh my God, that would be amazing, bro. I'd be like, oh shit, Tasha Steve.
Get them all out. Let everybody know where they can find you.
You guys could check out the World Wrestling Podcast. You could catch me on Twitter, Isaac M, I think, 1983. Isaac Matos on Instagram, and then it's Isaac Matos on Facebook, or Isaac_Matos on Instagram, and then it's Isaac Matos on Facebook.
We're gonna see you soon. Once this gets up and running.
Oh yeah, bro! I'm looking forward to another watch party, bro. That one at Buffalo Wild Wings, man, I had a blast, and I'm pretty sure you saw me screaming when Jon Moxley won the title.
Oh man, yeah, I was wondering. I thought it was the other girl that was next to you. No, it was you.
I got nothing but love for you, brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the support, honestly. I mean, you've been supporting for a while, man. And I appreciate it. BCW appreciates it as well. Folks, we're going to take it right back to the studio and check in with some indie wrestling talent.
I didn't expect that conversation to take that kind of a turn, but it did. And, you can't expect anything because anything and everything is on the table when we talk to the faithful fans of pro wrestling and of BCW. Isaac, my condolences to you and the family. And sir, listen, we might just make that come to fruition. We might just have Tasha Steele show up at another BCW event in the near future, as soon as things get back to normal. And you, my man, will have a front row seat. But folks, it is now time to check in with some of the independent wrestling talent to see how they're holding up during this time.
What's happening, everybody out there in TV land? For those of y'all who don't know, and you must be living under a rock if you don't, I am the Line Luca Brasi, one half of the greatest tag team on the East Coast, South Philly's finest, with my brother, the gent Jimmy Conway. Of course, got to give a quick shout out to my main man, Bob Ross. Wanted to shout out BCW, Breed Combination Wrestling, the BCW fans, and of course the BCW Curtain Call. I know I speak for Jimmy when I say we miss you guys like crazy. We have been in quarantine for months now, but I'll tell you now, as long as we're staying safe, as long as we're being smart, it'll be over sooner rather than later. I myself have picked up a job at FedEx Ground, working like a dog. But hey, these medical supplies ain't going to ship themselves, right? Right. So, at the end of the day, let's make sure that we all come back from this safe and sound. All right? Also, make sure you show your support. My man Jimmy Conway has a brand new mixtape out called That's Life. Make sure you check him out. And of course, make sure you make your way to prowrestlingtees.com/SPF Wise Guys to get all of your South Philly's finest merch, daddy. Folks, once again, we love y'all. Stay safe, stay blessed, and we'll see you soon. That you can bank.
BCW Faithful, it is your ring announcer, Shane Fair. I just want to give you a little update from quarantine. You know, we got a lot of things going on in BCW, from the King of the Monsters tournament to the finals of the Tag Team Championship tournament. And I want to remind the BCW Faithful that these things aren't deleted. They haven't been stopped. They're just temporarily put on pause. And the second that we are able to resume the sport that we love, we are going to rip the roof off of that building in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey at the Knights of Columbus. And we are going to answer all those unanswered questions. And we're going to fulfill those obligations to our fans that have been put on pause. I want to thank Jimmy J and I want to thank Curtain Call for giving BCW a voice in this difficult time and helping carry on our message. So Jimmy J, thank you so much for that. Pete Rosado, AJ Pan, Riley Shepard, Mr. Cole, I miss you all very much. Abel, especially. I want to see you all, and I want to see all the BCW faithful come out when this is all over. Every day that we go through this, we are one step closer to resuming the sport that we love, to seeing the people that we've loved and missed these many months, and we are going to rip that roof off like I promised. Keep social distancing. Know that some of these methods may sound crazy. It's not a conspiracy, people. Just do what they ask, and let's get back to some normalcy. Let's get back to BCW. We'll see you soon in Ridgefield Park.
Shout out to Luca Brasi, one half of South Philly's finest, my fellow Paisan. I can't wait to see you back in a BCW ring. And of course, shout out to the voice, Shane Fair. I can't wait to hear those melodious tones call a BCW show once again. But folks, faithful, the time is up. We're out of time. Big thank you from my special guest today, Teddy Hart. I appreciate you. You're chopping it up with yours truly, Jimmy J, and being very transparent. And I'm sure the fans can't wait to see you back in action. But folks, stay tuned next week. There's more to come. Another interview, 5 minutes with the faithful. Check in on some other independent wrestlers. But as that curtain comes down, I gotta remind you that BCW Breed Combination Wrestling is where the future